Sound the alarms. We have breaking news coming in on the swimming world, some of the most important stuff that we've heard in the past few months. One of the biggest points of contention in swimming right now is the International Swimming League. And what has happened today?
Well, it looks like FINA's going to back down off of enforcing or at least threatening bans on swimmers who want to participate, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what do you guys, what's your hot take? What's your initial thoughts?
I mean, what I think it's impressive is how they just completely changed their minds, right? I mean, do you guys think something else happen, or was it just the overall push? Yeah, overall push from the athletes?
I would say one of the biggest swimmers in the whole sport are talking bad about you. You probably want to do your best to, make them happy. Or at least not...
Because they were pushing back hard.
Well, it appears at least that there was one or two governing bodies, right, national governing bodies that were potentially... supportive of their athletes in that way, right? And, it seems what the president of Australian swimming spoke with FINA. So, I think that probably had some impact, but yeah.
I don't know, Brian, maybe if you want to go over just so that people that are listening know what...
Yeah, basically to catch everybody up, reading direct from the source SwimSwam, written by Braden Keith, the Swimming Australia CEO Lee Russell, in an attempt to stave off further headbutting between FINA and ISL, they actually had a video call today. And the billionaire-funded International Swim League is no longer going to be relented by FINA, meaning FINA is not going to be threatening their athletes, bans from the Olympics anymore. And there's a lot more that goes into it, I would say, that we can also speak to. But I would say part of it's just going to be that this is going to be a thing now. I mean, this has been trying to brew for a little while. And the fact that FINA was so harsh against it probably speaks a good amount to everyone's thoughts about FINA. I don't think everybody, blanket globally has good, positive thoughts on FINA.
Obviously without the high-profile legal cases as FIFA. But, I think there's sometimes similar... feeling placed on the governing bodies, different sports, but similar issues. And, I know like IOC, there's been articles that have come out about, how much money that can cost host cities for the Olympics. So I think there's a lot of general mistrust, amongst some people at least, right, of some of these organizations. But I think it's great, right? I feel like people have always talked about this, swimming needing something like this for... forever, it seems like.
It's just tough, right? Because what they were trying to do is pretty much monopolize the whole industry of swimming.
I had a hard time seeing that ever holding up, right? It seems that would be a difficult standard to uphold. It just, especially if this were to start taking off, right? If some people took a risk, there's no way you're going to be able to keep people from peeling off if there's money involved.
For those who don't know what the International Swim League's whole idea is, it's basically an equal opportunity professional swimming league, right? 12 men, 12 women per team. There's supposed to be something like 12 different teams. I think that's correct?
Yeah, 12 teams, I think, as of now.
Yeah, 12
Not
different...
all of them confirmed yet.
12 different stops across the world in important swimming cities and just, cool destinations. But the biggest thing would be that this is going to open up the world to, professional contracts for swimmers. It's outside of just sponsors. If you look at the NBA, an NBA player has Nike as a sponsor, which would be the equivalent of somebody being sponsored by Speedo, Arena, Tier, whoever. But the NBA actually pays them. The NBA actually pays those athletes. And right now, if you're swimming for the USA Swimming National Team, you get somewhat of a salary. It's livable, but not in great living circumstances. Whereas now the ISL is basically opening up. If you win a prelims event, you can get $500. If you win this, you get $1,000.
You can even look at other maybe less obvious sports, I think, that have some aspect of that, right, where you're signed to a team. Even like some car racing, right, like NASCAR, F1. You have teams, right, and they sign drivers to their teams, but they also have heavy sponsorship, like on the actual cars and on
FIFA,
like the jackets.
Right?
FIFA does the same thing. Example. NFL, a lot of these sports have pro leagues. There's some that we're trying to, I think FINA at least, or some bodies were trying to go towards with like the World Cup series of meets and, kind of like golf maybe.
Yeah.
Where you don't really sign to a team in golf, but you're just going to individual events and competing.
You have an organization supporting you, whereas FINA's, basically just the iron fist that doesn't do a lot. And just to speak to some of the people that have been behind this.
Yeah, there's nobody really organizing, like trying to recruit like sponsors, trying to like and an overhead, right? Like the NFL is going out and getting sponsors, right? It's not like each team has to go get like league sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's good. The organizational should help.
And in terms of this story, Olympic gold medalist Cameron Vandenberg, who retired recently, was kind of one of the people that was pushing along with the biggest names in swimming. You know, Adam Peaty, Chad Leclos, Sarah Sostrom, Katinka Hosu. All these people are being mentioned within this story, but someone like Cameron Vandenberg was reached out to by SwimSwam with this story, and all the swimmers are celebrating it as this huge victory. Michael Andrew was actually a part of one of the class action lawsuits that was going to be, or that was already submitted towards FINA.
Right? Adam Peaty was very heavy on it.
Adam Peaty was pushing some legal matters, but Michael Andrew was also one of the people that was, you know, part of the class action lawsuit. And it's a good sign when there's a collective positivity from the people that are actually competing in your sport. Yeah. When the organizing body does something actually good for them.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much trying to make the sport a little bit more for the audience, yes. Right? Trying to create that environment,
a little more exciting, a little bit more of an event. This is something I've said a lot of times.
That can push revenue, right? Because you
have to make it attractive to people that aren't just interested in swimming, right? Sure. Like we're all in the swimming world here. You know, most of the people listening probably in the swimming world.
Yeah.
So you know that doesn't necessarily apply to them, but it's got to be like, you know, if I'm in Las Vegas and there's some like UFC event going on, you know, I'm not like huge on UFC. You guys have been kind of working on me some, but like I would be interested in going just because it's a good event. Yeah. Like it needs to be the same thing, right? If you're just looking for something to do on a night,
exactly.
And there's a swim meet going on, you're like, oh, that would be fun. We should go check that out.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know that happens unless it's like trials or some like huge international
there's going to
meet.
Be an ISL meet. Let's say in theory 1 per month, just like kind of like the UFC does, where this month is Austin, Texas, and we're gonna have Joseph Schooling versus Caleb Dressel in the 100 butterfly, and everybody's gonna turn on.
Exactly.
Right. There's gonna be cable rights involved. People are gonna be sharing, and it's in season meets. Maybe we're not gonna be as impressed as the Olympics at their times, but it's gonna be a hell of a race. Yeah. It's always exciting to watch these kind of guys go.
You should look up and we should go over where the proposed teams are.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's 12 of them. I think some are confirmed already. Some exist already, but there's still, a number that are out there.
Yeah. Well, and not to speak against, setting, let's say, long-term goals and, just practicing over a long period of time to, race at that specific meet as it is today. But I do think, right, you do add a fun component by having these more frequent competitions and just even maybe elevate the level of swimmers over time.
I think so. You potentially get people who are interacting more, right? Like international swimmers, if they're on similar pro teams, right? They might be training together more frequently.
Yeah.
So you have some interesting, I think interactions that
and just that crossover
might not happen. Yeah.
Just that crossover, because I remember, right? I'm originally from Brazil, and growing up, watching Real Madrid, for example, you're seeing a lot of Brazilian players. You have some guys from England, right? It's just cool seeing like the players from different people from.
The sport is international, so it's fun to
places
see.
Interacting.
You don't often see people in different countries competing together, except at like the college level.
Yeah.
So this is something that's kind of interesting to know. This is from December 18th. There's no Australian or Asian teams as of yet, but there's basically 12 stops, 12 different teams, or in some circumstances they're just considered clubs. But there's Energy Standard, Stuttgart, Rome, Marseille, Budapest, London, and then in the United States it's LA, San Francisco, Atlanta, Austin, Washington, D.C., and Phoenix.
All locations with large club teams or college teams or just large swimming presence.
And interesting to note, all these places are places that not only are there big swimming presences, but it's also places that people kind of just want to go to. I mean, the UFC doesn't go to, not to call out anything, but let's say Greensboro is a big attraction for swimming these days,
Omaha.
right? Yeah, Omaha, Greensboro.
Great venue.
UFC doesn't go to the middle of Kansas. They go to Vegas, Anaheim. They go to New York. They go to Brooklyn. They do
Especially if you want to draw on like the casual fan.
Yeah.
You have to go where those people are.
If you're trying to have a professional league, make it something where if people aren't watching on TV, we can make a weekend out of it. Maybe we'll wind up going to one of the LA ones.
Yeah.
So these are cities, right? Because here it's mentioning.
Yeah, so there's European teams, and then there's clubs within the United States cities that they have. So not everything is confirmed with the ISL so far. This is reported from December 18th, but all the European teams are confirmed. 2 of the American teams are confirmed, and the 4 are in negotiations still. So we're still waiting to hear back on what that actually is going to be, who's going to be behind those teams, what the sponsors are going to be.
Yeah.
And we haven't even seen what this league's going to look like.
You make
yet,
guesses
honestly.
Probably around some of those locations, right? You know, well-known people in and around those areas.
Well, speaking to the spectacle of what a professional sports league will be like for swimming, the semifinals and finals for 2019 of this league is already slated for Mandalay Bay Events Center, Las Vegas.
There you go.
That's going to be freaking cool.
Exactly.
We may need to go to that. We're gonna go to that.
That would be sick.
But
yeah, we'll find a way.
But so
if anybody listening has a way.
To me, it's funny
we'll go to
that
Vegas.
Florida. You know, I would think.
Yeah, Florida.
Florida is a big swimming state.
Where though? What facility?
Hall of Fame.
Until the
That's a good
Hall
point.
of Fame is
Hall of Fame is not legal.
is done.
Yeah.
These
are all-
It wouldn't matter because that's for FINA,
Yeah.
right? And FINA isn't going to approve these anyways, so it
Exactly.
wouldn't make a difference.
So that's what I
But
was
once the
going
Hall of
to
Fame
get
is
to.
renovated, that could be a great spot.
That's one thing that I was going to get to, is that there are still negatives hanging over FINA with this decision. We're going to rule this as a blanket positive because we have an international swimming professional league now, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's an overall positive with some interesting caveats.
So one thing that I think is really interesting that we were talking about before we got on the show is FINA is not actually going to recognize any of the times from this professional league at these meets. And while that may not sound like it's a big deal if you consider what people go dual meet times, you know, it's impressive for the level of athlete, but it's not anything that's going to shatter the record books. Let's put ourselves in the scenario where this professional league has built itself up. There's a good amount of money involved. Let's say you're someone like our good friend Caleb Dressel, and the 50 free has something like $100,000 to win on a singular meet, something like that. If I had his capabilities, I would probably be tapering to try and win $100,000.
I mean, you think you're at least wearing a suit.
Exactly. And in this circumstance,
at a minimum.
in this circumstance, you're racing and
Shaving
fighting
even,
for prize money. What if a world record is broken, right? FINA's not going to recognize that world record, and then there's going to be a big stink about this, because if people are breaking world records doing your sport and you're not going to recognize it because of politics.
I tend to think at some point those two, it's at a collision course again. It's at some point, like if it gets big enough.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't take off, then it's not a big deal. But if you have like all these guys competing here and you have big events and they're putting up fast times, at some point I think you run into that issue again.
Yeah, but especially
they pushed it down the road a little bit. That problem.
Yeah, especially with swimming, right, where money is really the lacking resource there
for sure.
Lots
I
of
do think that's going to happen, right? People, especially if ISL actually does go through with the amount of money that they're claiming.
I mean, if anybody listening,
it's a livelihood.
we none of us have been pro swimmers here, but Marcin, if he was here a little bit, but we know generally, right, what the money is like for most people when they're pro swimmers.
Yeah.
And so, if you're talking about the kind of money they're talking about, I mean, that's like a year worth plus, easy, for like one meet, right? So that's it's hard for anybody, I think, in any situation to.
And eventually, right, like you were saying, if swimmers are really going all in for ISL because of the money, right, they would eventually count those world records. I would think
so.
Right?
I think that the thing you get into though, right, is what kind of things FINA does. Right, for something to be sanctioned and approved, as a world record, right? Like drug testing.
That's true.
What's the ISL's policy going to be like on that?
That is one thing that they're priding themselves on, is that they want this to be one of the cleanest professional sports. They're basically trying to make it as completely equal as they possibly can for the athlete. They want the athlete to be able to make enough money in appearance bonuses, team bonuses, winning bonuses, and they want to make sure that this is going to be a fair league. So I would assume that the drug testing isn't going to be as I can't really speak to it, but I would assume it's going to be semi-relaxed for in-season meets internationally. You're not going to be drug testing the top 3 at every sectional meet or every senior championship meet, even if you're at the Olympic level. But I would assume that there's 12 stops. There's going to be 12 major drug test components to each stop.
I would think you'd probably look at something similar to what other pro leagues do. I don't know what FIFA does, or I'm a little more familiar with like NFL or the NBA. Some like random testing, and I mean, people do get dinged every once in a while, right? So obviously it's not totally soft. Yeah. So I would imagine before they would agree to start counting world records, they're gonna want to like verify stuff like that.
Yeah.
Make sure pools are the right length, all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
the logistics.
It sounds like they have the locations already locked down. So I would assume they've done some due diligence there. But yeah, this is a professional sports league.
It's like you're saying, like the Hall of Fame, very well-known pool, lots of big meets there.
Yep.
I watched Nationals there in 2002.
Yep.
That's not certified right now for diving, at least, right?
The swimming is not certified for FINA. It's certified for USA Swimming for some reason, but different standards, I guess. Maybe not at like a higher level, but yeah, you can qualify for Olympic trials at like a random local event at the USA Swimming International Hall of Fame. But I guess one of the things that's kind of future looking towards is having a viable professional sports league in swimming makes you
fantasy swimming.
Well, that's one thing that could kind of be cool, honestly. Another thing could be the studs that are coming out of high school. Do you consider just training your way like Michael Andrew has done?
Does the ISL put in place a rule, a one and done rule? Is there a 3 and done rule like the NFL? What do they do about that?
I mean, we're all very well aware of the fact that the biggest and best programs tend to have. I mean, I was looking at the national team roster today, and all you see is Cal Berkeley, Stanford, Louisville, Texas. These programs just take swimmers in and pop them into the Olympics. So if there's going to be something,
that'll be something new for the NCAA to address somewhat, right? Because that's definitely different than how it is now for swimming, so that'll be an adjustment.
Different for recruiting as well, because the way the NCAA treats, let's say, basketball. I always go to basketball because that's one of my favorite sports. Basketball players go to Kentucky because the coach is promising them, hey, we're going to groom you for the NBA. You're going to leave here and you're going to be an NBA player. Right now for swimming, we say, hey, you're going to have a good time on the team. You're going to win some championships, hopefully. And you're probably going to hopefully make the Olympics while you're on the team. Now, this could change the tune. It could be, hey, I think we're going to train you through this. And by the time you're done, you're going to be so in shape and so ready. And you're going to have such a tightly compact training schedule that we'll be able to drop taper you for these meets. You'll be able to make this much money once you're post-grad and you can make a living off of your swimming.
Yeah. I have a harder time thinking that, people will not go to college just to go straight into the ISL. It's a little bit different than NBA, right? NBA can make an unbelievable amount of money by letting go of that opportunity.
Rare.
Yeah. It is rare, though. I mean, look at Michael Andrew did, right?
And for him, every once in a while you see somebody like that.
Yeah. But
I agree.
Speaking in general, right, there's still, even though this is great, there's still like a big difference, right? Letting go of college for NBA. Yeah. I mean,
and I think the other thing to like what you were saying, right? Like with basketball or even like football, there's like a fairly, noticeable or, well-known difference in style of play, between college and pro. Like what makes you successful. I don't think there's going to be, unless like they start going more specific, like differences on format stuff, I don't think you're really going to have that much of a difference. I think what would make you successful now training for an Olympic team probably will also make you successful in ISL.
So if we want to speak towards gaming, each location has their choice at what they want their pool length to be. That's gaming. That's something where I could see a similar transition about the NBA. You play college style, you play professional style. Maybe the American swimmers who tend to be younger and tend to be just fresh out of college, they're used to short course yards. So if you're a smart European team, you're going to make every meet that they come to a long course meters meet because maybe they're not going to be as fresh.
Yeah,
they don't
I like their strategy to that. I like that.
Yeah. And this is funny because I was just looking at these pictures, right? They have here from this article about this presentation here for ISL, and I know the guy that's presenting. I just looked him up on LinkedIn and I swim with him.
Really?
The guy that's presenting for ISL. He's from Greece. His name is Apostolis Tsagarakis. He swam with me at Coral Springs. Familiar. Yeah, he was an Olympian for Greece a while back. It says that he's a technical director at ISL.
May have to get him on the show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
May have to hit him up. Well,
interesting.
I guess we'll wrap this up. We wanted to jump on an emergency show. Thank you guys for watching. We are actually launching the podcast very soon, but as you can see, we have the set. We're ready. We're pumped to start pushing stuff, but this is too good to not jump on and talk about. So
definitely, if you have any other comments, drop them in any of the platforms we're on. We're on many of them.
Yeah, we're pumped to keep this going, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
See ya.
Peace.